Good morning. A recent article on photography stated, photography is the act of capturing light that bounces off a subject and recording it with a camera or film. I'm hoping my talk with you this morning will refute that statement. I feel it's much more. I love the story about a famous New York photographer that was invited to a celebrity-hosted dinner by a famous New York socialite who also hosted a cooking show. Must have been a community event. When he arrived at the dinner, the hostess told him how much she admired his photography and asked him what kind of equipment he used. He didn't answer right away, but after the wonderful meal, he thanked her, told her what a fine cook she was, and asked her what kind of a stove she used. This past week has caused me to do some thinking about my photography. What is it like? What is it that I like? What types of photos do I prefer? What do I see when a scene that says, you must take a photo? Gail often says to me, why are we stopping? And I tell her, I've seen something I want to capture. Afterwards, she'll often say, I didn't see what you saw. Next slide. When I was growing up in Alberta, I purchased a new 35mm camera and a photo in the back of my mind that I thought would be a great scene, and I took off towards the railway trestle just outside my hometown, Bentley, Alberta. I walked the tracks to the trestle, took the photo, and sent it and a couple of other shots to the Weekend magazine, which was published by the Toronto Star in those years. They selected this shot. Under the full-color page, This is Canada, entitled Footprints on Winter's Early Carpet, where they included the statement, this picture resulted when he chanced to turn around and saw the lonely pattern of his own footprints stretching in the distance behind him. In thinking, what do I see? I think I've come to the conclusion that every picture should be able to tell a story, or there will be a story that goes with it. I don't have any particular favorite types of photos, but I do confess that I like taking photos of nature and of people. This photo is the farm gate sunset of my brother-in-law's farm near Grenfell, Saskatchewan. The stories that surround that scene would fill a book. But this one is young John, my son John. This is something like 46 years ago, riding the mower with Uncle Leonard. You might think of this as nothing but riding the mower. John likes to think it's Uncle Leonard teaching me to be a man. A few years ago, Trinity hosted a group of young mothers and mothers-to-be once a week in the fellowship hall. They were given training on early childhood raising, cooking, and provided a very friendly atmosphere to these ladies to get together. I thought it might be nice to take their portraits, give them an 8x10 and a 5x7 and 6 wallet-sized prints as a Christmas present that would give them hopefully a memory of the pleasant time hosted at Trinity. We did this for 3 or 4 years, each year taking some 30 to 35 individual portraits, then processing them and packaged them in time for Christmas. In June, Keith, is June 23rd?
Yes.
June 23rd weekend is the KW Multicultural Festival. And as you well know, Gail and I, and now Keith, are a lot of association with the Multicultural Center. And Keith plays a major role in putting together the Multicultural Festival, helping to put it together. But it's a wonderful opportunity for taking pictures of these people. You can flip to the next slide. All sorts of ethnic groups, dancing groups, and it's a wonderful time to go, and it's free. You can also buy a lot of food there too. Next slide. Back in early 1980s, do you remember this evening at Trinity? Who was there? Aha! The daughter of the late Martin Luther King spoke to an overflowing crowd at Trinity. I'm a little emotional about this one. What a night to remember. And one can't forget when they introduced our minister of the time as, "Here's Brother Al." And I don't think Al Kirker really liked that one. And of course, the wonderful men's turkey dinners, a source of camaraderie and great fellowship. Many friendships developed through these contacts, and they've remained there over the years. Now this one, I titled it in my speech here as Talented People. I'm not sure the word talent is right, but when I took these pictures, I didn't know who I was taking pictures of. So the slide on the left, there's Graham Brown, of course, our chair of trustees, and then there's that fellow on his left who was the Governor General? Yes, right, that's right. And then on the right-hand photo is a group of ladies who held a refugee lunch at Trinity. And the second from the right is the current leader of the government house and the MP, Barty Shigar from Waterloo. I had to put this picture in because we all love it. Remember that our dear friend Betty Hagee donated this tapestry to Trinity, and we had an offer back in 2013. I think they do it about 2 years in advance, maybe it's 2012. Would anybody like to send a picture in for the United Church calendar? So we sent ours in, and we got the front page on the calendar. And I understand from something Gail saw on the Facebook last night that the tapestry is now hanging here in one of the hallways out here? Right. Oh, right back here. Okay, great.
On the way to coffee.
On the way to coffee? Okay, super. That's right. I didn't set out to have this presentation become a slideshow, but I did want you to see the images that I see in nature that most often give me pause to think about our living with creation. This is a scene that Gail and I see each morning as we look out our family room window in the fall. God's creation, with a lot of credit to our good neighbors, Lynn and David Thompson. And each spring, I insist that we make an annual pilgrimage down towards Lake Erie, and this is the return of the tundra swans, which we find at the Elmer Wildlife Center. There's something like 2,600 swans there on a morning being fed. It's a wonderful sight. These birds travel from Chesapeake Bay to the Northwest Territories, over 2,600 kilometers each year, raise their young at the north, take them back to Chesapeake Bay for the winter. The second one is just a gentleman feeding the gulls at the pier at Port Dover. If anybody looked at the photo of the day in the Record yesterday, I get the odd one in there. Mother chipmunk with her youngster. An interesting part here was they've got a burrow in our front yard, and this was the little guy sticking his head out of the hole in the burrow and his mother teaching him how to stay away from the lawnmower. The one on the right is a woodpecker going to the ends of the earth to lean upside down to get that last piece of suet, eh? Flowers. I like taking pictures of flowers because they stand still. And it's very important not to have motion when you're waving your camera around. So I use a tripod a lot. But the trout lily, we've got 2 or 3 that grow in our backyard, and I suspect that the seeds were planted there by some bird flying to and from our bird feeder. Drop the seeds. And the money tree blossom, we had a money tree growing, and I think it was about 3 years before it actually grew a blossom, so that was the reason for that one. And then I thought, I'll just go outside last Sunday and take pictures of various flowers. So the fern on the left I thought was fantastic because it looks like a Christmas tree. And of course the blue pansies and the primrose and the maple leaf before it turns into a real maple leaf. We were out in St. Jacobs early in the year And we went into the 10,000 villages out there, which I understand now is it closed permanently or just during the week? It's closed, right? Anyway, I spotted this vase, which we learned was made by an artisan from Hebron. And that we just have to have this vase. I got it home, set it in the window, and the sun comes through the top of the vase and creates an image on the side of the vase. You can't get any more spiritual than that. Sometimes what you don't see in a photo shows you more about the story than what you expect to see. Here we have a visitor looking at the site of where the stained glass windows were on the YW side of the balcony. And I know a lot of you would have thought, well, now, isn't Ken going to show us a picture of the stained glass windows? So yes, I will. So this is one of the many of the 34 stained glass windows that we have at Trinity. And just to set the record straight, if you go to the Trinity website and look for the stained glass windows, you'll find the whole story on all 34 windows, along with Reverend Hosey's original drawings and architectural description of what these windows mean, what the stories mean, and it's really a great lesson in history. The windows now are safely crated. They're in a warehouse in Kitchener. They'll be left there as a whole group until we decide what it is we're going to do with the windows in the future, whether they'll take part of a new building, whether they'll become screens, or what. But they're all together, they're safely ensconced, and nothing can damage them right now. More stories. This photo shows a history of 3 of our more recent ministers, which you will recall with great memories. Al Kirker, Bob Hyde, and Frank Morgan. I've undertaken a project to digitize a number of the photos from Trinity's archives. And this is one that we found. Now, Gwyneth Bevan was our archivist, and she did a great job. But she found a number of old photos, and she had somebody duplicate them or take a picture of them and turn it into a negative. So I took this from the negative, and so you look at the picture and you'll see numbers by each one of the faces. If we could ever find the original photo, somebody has written the names of all these people on the back of that photo, and we'd know who they are. And no, Kathy Lees is not in this. Sorry, Kathy, I couldn't resist. This is the Trinity Methodist Choir of 1890. And I've got about 150 negatives that go back to prior to Trinity moving over to 74 Frederick Street. So it'll be a wonderful history when we get it all together. And next slide. Now, I'm hoping that someone in the future, perhaps 100 years from now, will bring forth this photo of Trinity's choir in 2018, practicing the anthem they gave us last week. And if you weren't there to hear that anthem, you can go to the website. There are 67 of our anthems videos posted on the website. Keith does this faithfully each week from the films that I take on this camera over here. This is just another way I found to use my photographic skills and enjoy creation and nature and my love of everything. Thank you very much.